Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to BiblioTech On Air. I'm Rosanna.
I'm Ruby.
And I'm Romeo.
And today we're going to be discussing our latest Libros and Libation read, Never Whistle at Night. It is an Indigenous Dark Fiction Anthology by Shane Hawk, Theodore Van Alst, and featuring probably like 25 authors of Indigenous ancestry, Indigenous
authors.
Yeah, it's all. I think you were saying, Romeo, before we got started, like it's all Indigenous.
Correct.
All Indigenous participants, the editors,
Correct.
the authors featured in here.
Everything in from Canada as well as all across the United States. Yeah.
So yeah, make sure y'all check that out. We have it available on cloudLibrary, both the ebook and audiobook. Which ones did y'all do? Did y'all do ebook or audiobook?
I do both. For the Libros, I like doing both. I gotta really immerse myself into the book to make sure I remember all the details I can talk about.
Especially with this one, considering it was like 20-ish stories. So
it was 26. Yeah. I usually do both as well. I have the physical. I like to have it here, obviously, for our discussion, but I mostly do the audio. This one was a little bit more difficult to get into because there were so many different voices.
Yeah.
Every story had a different narrator.
Yeah.
So it wasn't super consistent. So it was a little tough for me.
Yeah.
But it was overall, it was okay. So
cool. So I guess if you just want to get right into the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start with question one. So many of the stories explore the tension between tradition and modern life. How do different characters navigate the pull of ancestral beliefs in contemporary settings?
It's crazy because going into it, I thought it was going to be more about like mythical creatures and like skinwalkers and that type of vibe.
Sure.
So like starting off with the first story and then getting into like the second and third, where it was more like humans being horrible to other humans. I was like, oh yeah, this is dark. Unfortunately, this is like, so I was thinking too, like, man, this gotta be happening out in this world, you know? It's so sad to think about, but it's just crazy thinking that people have these kind of stories in their family.
Yeah. The one story that I think fits this question pretty well is the one where they're hiking in the park and get stuck overnight.
Oh yeah.
Where you have is it Peter? I think it's Peter.
I think that was his name. Yeah.
The main protagonist of the story.
Yes, it was
he's
Peter.
very he's obviously it's a contemporary setting, but like he's very conscious of his beliefs, tries to be respectful of, the like indigenous territory and writings they see, because they come to like a little cave or wall area and they see the, like the writing. And
I always want to say hieroglyphs. They're not hieroglyphs. I forgot what they're called, but yes, like it's just the different pictures.
Yeah. And his cousin and her very white boyfriend, she's just kind of like dismissive of him, like, oh, don't mind him, he's just being dumb. And he's over here just like trying to disrespect him, like touch him. And it just kind of goes to show, like, like the cousin, she's a bit more aloof about it all until stuff starts happening to her, while Peter's very, very like, ingrained, traditional. It's kind of cool to see the different aspects of it, because even not necessarily an indigenous people, but like even in Latina within ourselves, we see like kind of that interracial discrimination or kind of abandonment of certain practices because you want to try to fit in with the mold.
Or even cultural appropriation at times, right? That takes place a lot. But yeah, I think that's a really good story that highlights this question because, like you mentioned, it's taking place in, maybe you can think it's 2025 or at least somewhere in the 2000s. And you have these two individuals who aren't really respecting the beliefs and the tradition, but Peter over here is like, hey, you don't do that. And then of course, without spoilers, they just kind of experience some stuff that gets very, very supernatural. But I think about the power of word and the power of stories. Like these individuals' culture and traditions go back thousands of years, and it's still, they still believe in a lot of these things, just like a lot of us here in the Latinx communities and stuff. But I just think it's really powerful that they can bring those stories from that far back to now and it's still relevant to them. So.
Yeah. I mean, granted, there's probably a few changes along the way, just like with any tale that's carried over thousands of years. But yeah.
Pretty cool. Lost in translation for sure. It does happen. But okay, so the anthology opens with the idea that whistling at night can summon evil. How does this concept resonate across the various stories? And which interpretation or version of the warning felt most impactful to you? So I bring this question up because yesterday I asked there at book club, had anybody even heard of whistling at night and what about summoning evil? And some people there said that yes, they had. Some were like, well, I had never heard of that. So I think this question is kind of important to ask that and how it resonates across various stories.
I never heard of that. I didn't know that was a thing.
So I was aware of it, and I kind of made the comment at Libros last night. It does live rent free in my head because, I have dogs, so I'll let them out at night.
Yeah.
And, I'll do the little whistle to like let them back in anytime they're outside. But when I'm at night and I whistle, I'm like, let's not do that.
Maybe.
I'll just be
so
like, come
interesting.
on in. But I don't know if it's tied to a specific region or if there's like an interpretation between different tribes and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's, of course, like whistling tied to like the skinwalker thing, and then whistling in like the Appalachian region where, if you hear whistling, don't respond, don't ignore it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I think you're right. I think there's similarities, but it's regional as well.
Mhm.
The skinwalker thing, I was like, my son surprisingly was the one telling me about it. Apparently, if it's a skinwalker, if the whistling is very close, it actually means they're further away. It's like the opposite. I had never heard the whistle at night, but of course, there's different traditions and beliefs that people have that I was like, okay, well, this resonates with me in this way because I've heard it this way or whatever. But the whistling at night, I had never heard of it as a thing. So
Never did.
Yeah.
I heard about owls. Like you're
The
not
owl
supposed to be
thing.
out late at night,
Yeah.
or like Lechusa might come and get you if you're wearing red at night. That's
red.
something that lived
Really?
free in my mind. Yeah.
Interesting. I never heard the red.
Yeah, I've
thing.
heard the lechusas, but not the red.
Yeah. I was told that they were attracted to red. So you're supposed to wear red at night.
That sounds like it could be tied to also misogyny.
Yeah, I know.
Because women are going to be more
Ooh.
likely to wear.
Looser at night or
Like a scarlet letter.
But
type.
the owl thing too, like we do see the owl thing in here.
Yeah.
Like owls are kind of a premonition or like a warning, kind
Yeah.
of an omen.
Mhm.
Which that one's spread over various stories, like the mention of owls.
I wonder why owls got such a bad. I don't know the history on it. It's a good thing to look at, but not only just an urban legend, but I feel like everybody has this. I guess because they're nocturnal, they come out at night. It's almost like this creepy thing, but it's like it's just an owl. It's just
And
a
the
bird.
way their head moves, like how their body stays still, but their head can like
Stop looking at me with them
completely
big old
rotate.
eyes.
Yeah,
they're just so freaky.
I guess it does have.
Not techie though.
Oh, that's
We
true.
love techie.
We flipped the script on that one, right?
I
We
mean,
make techie very
make it
very friendly with the little arms. Okay, so how do themes of colonialism, survival, and identity shape the horror in these stories? In what ways does cultural trauma manifest in supernatural forms?
I mean, the cultural trauma in itself is kind of a survival tactic because, that cultural trauma is carried kind of like with the stories, it's carried over generations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lesson for some of the younger generations to, hey, don't do this. Look what happened to our people. Look what happened to your family, whatever.
Yeah.
Try to avoid that if you want to stay alive. And I mean, that's present in, in quite a few cultures here in the U.S. especially.
It's like that one story. One of the stories that really stuck out to me was the one where the woman was married with that rich white man and she got pregnant. And then she just like jokingly accidentally said one time, like, yeah, I'm part Native American.
He thought she was French. Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, why did you say that? And then the mom ends up making her drink a drink that'll unfortunately abort the baby.
Yeah.
And then they just want to get rid of her completely after that. And I was like, oh my God, that's so crazy. Like obviously that's something to be very scared about. Like that happens. I imagine it to happen.
She has to chop her finger off.
Yeah, that
like,
too.
Prove that she
got rid of it all, that she's cleansed or whatever.
Yeah, and so she could keep like her status,
Yeah.
her money, all the riches.
I think about colonialism and shaping these horror stories because you think about it, you're Native American at the time when Manifest Destiny or whatever you want to call it is going on, right? People are pushing further west, and you see these invaders essentially, and like it was frowned upon to even have these discussions or these stories, or these urban legends, because they were literally indoctrinating you, right, and trying to convert you into whether it was Catholicism or be whatever kind of religion. But they still managed in a lot of these circles to keep these stories alive, like we're talking about, right? Like you're talking about 2025, and they still have beliefs, even though there may have been some translation loss there. But I just think it really shapes who they are still as people, and their stories are meaningful to them and to even to us to learn about and stuff. I just think it's really important to think about that word more than anything, and how these stories are still, even though they're contemporary, they're being tied back to tradition and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I know. I remember when it really shocked me. Oh, we interviewed that one guy. Was it Mesquite Puppy? I think when he was
Manuel?
talking about how like he knows his family tree and he knows like, all these stories and he knows like stories from everyone. I was like, man, that's crazy. Like the fact that they just make that such a priority, you know, like every single person in here is gonna know about all of this. I'm like, I wish my family was like that.
I mean, storytelling itself too. It's part of the culture. It's an art.
Oral history is a big thing. It really is. So, okay. So which story surprised or unsettled you the most and why? And how did the author build tension or suspense in that story? I mentioned the hunger one, if y'all remember that one. So it's like a group of young women, and I think they're like going to a party and stuff, but she's in particular describing white males. And for me, it was metaphorical. I didn't end the way I thought it would, but it's like a hunger, an insatiable hunger building in these individuals for like essaying women, for conquering women. It was really metaphorical in that sense, but I was like, man, this is still something that goes on today. Brock Turner crossed my mind in terms of taking advantage and stuff. I thought that story unsettled me the most just because of where it was going. Again, it was a different ending, but it definitely built up that tension for me. So.
Yeah, that one definitely went both ways. Like there's the obvious hunger of like, I want to consume her soul, but then there was like that other like male urge because the like wanting to eat her, that was from the creature.
Yeah.
But then, you know, he's like, oh, I want to consume her. I want to eat her. That was non-possessed like part of him. And it's, you know.
Yeah, that was a tough one for me, but I did enjoy that one though.
The one that stuck out to me a lot was the one where the guy, he had the pride flag outside of his house.
Oh yeah.
And then his neighbors like brought it down, or did they burn it or something?
They like twisted it, tied it.
They like did something to like obviously let him know like, hey, we don't like that. And then he befriends the one other.
Well, I wouldn't say he befriends, but
the other guy came to him.
Yeah.
And then starts trying to get, like, he just keeps coming into his house uninvited.
That one was
and
strange.
then when he even like raped him and things like that. And like I brought up the question too in the beginning. I was like, why does he keep allowing this to happen? Why doesn't he just cut this guy off immediately? But then Rosanna brought up a good point where it's like, well, his neighbors gave him the sign that obviously he's not welcome there. So he sees one other person that's like him. Of course, he's going to be like, I don't want to shoo this guy off right away. You know, this is like probably my one other confidant here in this area. So that one really stuck out to me the most.
Also the teeth.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, obviously the guy was a murderer because he had human teeth. And yeah,
dude, that was such a moment where he sends like the picture to his friend, and his friend's like, bro, I think those are human teeth. He's like, nah, these are animal teeth. It's fine.
He's like, I think they're elk teeth or...
And then like a few days later, he gets the text like, dude, those are human teeth. You need to go.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
That was a good one.
I think the one that, I mean, there are several good ones. One that I really, really did enjoy though. I'm surprised I enjoyed it as much. Just because it was more on like, I guess the calmer side of things, was Before I Go. And it was with, I think, Kira. She went to the gorge where her boyfriend, like he fell to his death.
Yeah.
And she still hadn't quite made peace with it. I think it had already happened like a year ago.
Yeah.
And so she was there just kind of like trying to process. And so she gets like supernatural warnings in the form of, you know, this woman who's like, you shouldn't be here. She dreams about her boyfriend who's like, you shouldn't be here, broken and, you know, like bloody and stuff. And even her dad calls her drunk and he's like, are you there? You shouldn't be there. Da, 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 da. So she gets like several warnings. And finally, she gets a little too, she's about to leave and she's like, no, let me just go see one more time. Yeah. She gets a little too close. And then finally, she falls to her death too. And the mother, which is like, you know, kind of shown to be like Mother Night, Mother Death, welcomes her. And she's like, okay, I can reunite you with your boyfriend.
Yeah.
And so I thought that one was like a bit more bittersweet.
Yeah, true. She ended up back with her love, but she had to die to get there.
Yeah.
So it was kind of sad. Yeah.
It gave very Haunting of Hill House vibe.
Oh, yeah. I kind of forgot about that story. I'm glad you brought that one up. Yeah, that one was a pretty good one too. I did enjoy that one. So going back to the teeth real quick, and this is weird. I'm going to throw my family under the bus here. But my dad used to collect our baby teeth when they would fall out, and he had them like in a box. And so when my son's first tooth fell out, I felt like it was natural for me to be like, oh, let's save it. And his mom was like, what the heck are you doing?
What are you doing?
I was like, just his baby tooth. And she thought it was the weirdest thing.
I mean,
is that weird?
No, because my mom did the
Has your
same
baby
thing.
teeth?
Okay.
I think she still has some of my baby
My
teeth.
dad has, I have like 2 of my sons, and I'm like, it's not, I guess I could see where people are like, oh, it's creepy. But for me, it's just like, he's a kid. He lost his baby teeth. It's like, I don't know.
I mean, like when you cut their hair for the first time, a lot of people save that.
Same
So
thing, my
it's the
mom,
same
yeah.
thing.
Okay, cool.
Just everything
family
that
was
falls
crazy.
off of them, just start putting it aside and start making your own little.
We saved their tonsils from when they got them
Yes.
removed.
Well, I started thinking like, okay, what if like somebody's parent was accused of like being a murderer, and then they find these freaking teeth in their house?
No,
You're like,
that's more common. It'd be more freaky if it was like buried in the dirt in the backyard.
Well,
That'd
true.
be more concerning.
Well, then also they're baby teeth, right? Whatever. Anyways,
Whatever.
there's DNA now, so. But anyways,
Just disclaimer, we're not allegedly murderers.
Allegedly
no.
murderers.
talking about just collecting your kids' teeth. Anyways, that sounded wrong.
Your kids' teeth, not our kids'
Not our
teeth.
kids.
Your kids' teeth.
So several stories center on family, whether through legacies, secrets, or generational trauma. How do familial relationships heighten the emotional stakes of the horror?
I mean, a lot of that, it's like what we've been talking about. It just goes to like that generational storytelling, those generational warnings, that experience that gets passed down throughout the lives.
Yeah.
You see it, someone brought up last night, I don't remember who, but they brought up that a lot of the stories are very male-centered in, like,
Oh, it was Bernice, I think.
okay, yeah, where she was saying, oh yeah, because she was like, I'm sorry for you guys.
Yeah.
But she was saying that they're very like centered on how a man is supposed to be. And like, you're supposed to be at the, leading
Yeah.
the charge,
Mhm.
providing for your family. It's supposed to be like this form of strength,
Mhm.
which I mean, those kinds of expectations you see can take a toll on someone after a while.
Yeah.
But do you think that in itself is generational trauma? Because, and I don't mean only for the male, I mean even for the women to have to write these stories, and it's always centered around a male to be like this, whether it's a savior complex or just be the focal point of the story. Like most of the stories had a male lead, I guess.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I thought that to me was even a lot, saying, going back to the traditions and beliefs. But I think the one you mentioned about Peter earlier was a good example of this, because at the very end, the uncle he goes and picks up Peter, and he's like, you put a curse on them. I don't want to give too much of the story away, but one of the individuals, both of them, something happens to them.
Mhm.
And he's just like, oh, they'll be fine. Peter's like, it's cool. Let's go get some coffee. And the uncle's like,
Mhm.
okay, where do you want to go?
Yeah.
It was just so like, no
Yeah.
big deal,
Like,
right?
Another Tuesday.
Correct.
Another
Correct.
Tuesday.
So I thought that one was pretty good in terms of the familiar relationships. And I don't know if any other ones kind of stuck out to you all. That's just the one in my mind that I
Well,
think
except the first one, they started off with the banger. With
Oh,
the girl
heck yeah.
being
Oh, yeah.
the revengeful killer.
about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you go, girl.
Dude, that was
Because
satisfying.
that was the one right where her mom starts off was like, yeah, I have a baby with a white man. You might have a baby with blue eyes.
Mhm.
And she kept trying to push her to be with that guy, but that guy was horrible to her, and she was like, no. And then it turns out, what was the creature called? Where she was like,
The
and then
Kushaka, I think.
yes,
Yeah.
she's like,
I
all of
couldn't
a
pronounce
sudden,
it.
I just see this Kushaka just start killing everybody around until until it ended, and I was like, that looks like me. And then turns out it was her.
It was her. That one gave me very Killers of the Flower Moon vibes.
Yeah.
Because of the whole, there's a sense at that time that you needed to assimilate to kind of fit in with
Mhm.
like modern society. Not saying that everybody was on board with that, but I think a lot of ways they did push people to kind of intermarry,
Yeah.
so that they were more accepted. Maybe
Mhm.
their kids would be born with blue eyes, green
Mhm.
eyes, something like that. So that one was actually a really good story.
Mhm.
There are several stories like that. We see, of course, with the first one, and that's kind of more on the, more on the, I guess, like the like, no, I want to keep my history. Like, I don't want to,
Mhm.
Yeah,
be forced to assimilate or like mix with this white man.
sure.
And also, he's just kind of a douchebag.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But then with one of the next stories, going back to the one with the lady who was trying to hide her indigenous half until she thought it was going to be a point of like, not point of pride, but like bragging kind of a little
Yeah.
bit.
yeah,
We see how that worked against her.
Yeah.
And then another story after that, which this one was talked about quite a bit last night. It was the couple who had the two kids.
the two brothers.
Mhm.
And one of them was more indigenous than the other
Mhm.
one, which meant like he was going to get a payout
Correct.
and like more respect in the reservation and stuff. So they just totally dismissed the kid that had like
Less
the-
blood.
Yeah.
less blood,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and focus more on the kid that had
Yeah.
the higher percentage of tribal blood.
Mhm.
It gets to the point where she even tries to steal like the blood of like
The main guy who died.
yeah.
That story was a trip, but like people don't realize that a lot historically, even now, class, color class.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, like for example, like to get into a little bit of Mexico's history, they were conquered by the Spaniards or whatever. So if you're even in Mexico, not everywhere, but if you're a little more white passing,
Mm-hmm.
you're a little more accepted in terms of a class status
Yeah.
versus somebody who might be a little bit darker.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of the way it is across the world. And
Yeah.
in this case, it wasn't quite the whiteness; it was more the blood and the more
Mhm.
indigenous looking. But it's kind of similar in that way. So
Yeah, like you really see both halves of it. Like, oh, you get to be more white, blue-eyed versus, oh, you're more indigenous, which means you're more one of us.
correct.
You can never really like quite fit the mold.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's crazy. That one was a good one though. So, okay, so how does the anthology use setting, whether it's urban, rural, or mythical, rural, that's always a hard word for me, rural, to enhance the mood or meaning of its stories? And were there any particular settings that stood out to you?
The one that I just remembered right now that I was like trying to see how it fit in with the book was the one where the guy was obsessed with zombies and he ends up killing or like
Mm-hmm.
killing his grandfather
Yeah.
Yeah.
to protect him from being a zombie. I was like, man, that just like blew me out of the water. I was like, how does this fit in with the whole theme of what's going on right now?
Yeah.
But I was like, well, he just got lost in whatever he was just consuming.
Mhm.
Like, and then I don't know, like when he was just trying to reason himself in the end, he was like, no,
Yeah.
this is why I did it. I wanted to protect my family from thinking this bad thing was going to happen to everyone.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so easy for that to happen. Like you just get so consumed in like the news or what's going on and you're
Mhm.
like, something bad's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
I got to be the one to protect my family.
Yeah.
I got to be prepared. He was like having guns like stashed everywhere. So he was like, if I run this way,
Like
I'll be
doomsday kind of
protected.
prepping.
Yeah. I was like, man, that one was pretty crazy.
I think the one setting Haciel brought up, which it was a really good example, was the beach one, right? Where it takes place near the beach and stuff. Because I think stereotypically you think of Native Americans and you're thinking of like the stereotypical teepee and they're by a river, or they're by the mountains somewhere in the Southwest. But this one was like not the traditional setting for, I guess, a story like that. So I really liked how that one just kind of highlighted another portion. I mean, when the pilgrims landed, I mean, they were right on the beach, right? There were clear Native Americans there. But yeah, that was a good one. I think it was a good use of the setting. Obviously, the other one, like we talked about with Peter and them, just kind of out in the land and the rocks and everything. I thought that was a really good setting too, because that one gave more of the vibe of what you typically hear about those kinds of settings and stuff. But overall, I think they all kind of had a similar feel to it or mood for the setting. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like it was varied enough where it didn't focus so much on like, oh, they're in the forest or they're in the desert. Like it had some good like mix of like modern day settings. Like we saw suburbia with that frat boy party, college town or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the regular like the beach one, which is more like city urban sprawl a little bit.
Yeah.
Granted, more on like a coastal town
Sure.
still. So I think it did a pretty good job of like each author gave their own unique vibe to the setting.
I agree. So that was a pretty good question that we kind of discussed yesterday. I think everybody had some good input on that. So Indigenous storytelling often involves a deep connection to the land and to spiritual beings, which kind of goes back to the previous question. How do the stories reflect this relationship, and how does it differ from mainstream horror tropes?
So like with the spiritual beings, those in the book, I think, aren't necessarily like the scary things, kind of going back to what we were saying earlier about like humans being the primary source of fear and like danger in this book. Spiritual beings like for us, we think something scary, oh, the boogeyman. That's not like, something in our spiritual beliefs or practice, but like for a lot of indigenous tribes and people,
Like
a lot of these beings, they're not necessarily horror elements like we would see them. They're ingrained in their their prayer, their worship system, like with the Mother Night, how that's like the description of her, sure, that was like kind of scary, kind of terrifying, but
it's like their protectors.
That's their protector, like after death, like she welcomes them into like the afterlife and stuff. So that's
a very good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Like they're looking more at the spiritual beings as being like protectors and something not to be scared of.
Sure.
They're like something you should be scared of is men, humans, how we treat each other and what like the possibilities can happen to you.
I think about Hollywood now. I think about the Amityville Horror, which is the Ryan Reynolds film that came out like in, I don't know, 08, 09. But a lot of horror movies now, it's like, oh, this was on an Indian burial ground, this land. So they always paint it in a way where it's like negative, it's bad, like, because, oh, Native Americans are there, so all these like spiritual beings are going to kill you and haunt you. But I'm like, I mean, that's such a bad thing. It always paints the white versus the Native American individual. And I think that's kind of crappy. But then you think about a lot of this stuff. Like I even think about Freddy Krueger. You go into your sleep and dreams and stuff. I think about historically, those kinds of stories were probably passed down in different ways, and they turned it into a more traditional horror film.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like going into dreams and seeing things and stuff, all of that's embedded in history somewhere. And I think a lot of those Native American tales are probably talking about that in some different way back in the day. So I don't know. I just think about that in terms of current Hollywood.
Like with the burial ground thing, it's like, that's not a bad thing. That's a resting place for people. It's a bad thing when you disturb it.
That's true. And if you're white.
Exactly.
That's when it's a bad thing.
Like if you're going there out of curiosity and maybe to like, kind of just pay respect, that's not going to be a bad thing.
Sure.
But if you're going there to be like, let me dig this bone up. Oh, why is this bad thing happening to me?
Yeah. You're so right.
What do you think? What do you think is going to happen?
It's so funny. I never thought about it that way because I would always talk about how in my house right now, it used to be a family house. So someone died in it, like a grandparent had died in it. And so now everyone that comes back to it, they're like, you're not scared to be in there by yourself? Like they died in it. Sometimes I think I see them when I'm in there by myself, and I'm like, no. I'm like, if they died in it, I feel more protected in a sense, Sure. Like, why am I going to be scared of them if I'm there by themselves with them? Like, if their spirit is truly there, I'm like, why would I be scared of that? Like their family.
I think it's a lot of perception. I think more people are susceptible to that innate fear of like, oh my God, something bad, but. Like you said, if it's something that you look at that's just like, no, I feel more protected.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel that bad presence. It's more love or whatever. I mean, I just think a lot of it is how you perceive things. If you're just a little bit more easily rattled than somebody else. But the mind is a very powerful thing though.
Oh, for sure.
It can certainly trick you to believe certain things or hear things. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So. Okay. So you guys mentioned this earlier. So revenge is a recurring theme. In what ways do these stories use vengeance as a tool for justice, healing, or horror?
Oof, definitely going back to that first story. I mean, she just wailed on these white men that were being rude to her, that had her family's artifacts. Not only did she take them back, she used it to kill them. I mean, that one was a pretty good, just like revenge story right off the bat.
Yeah, that one started with a bang. I really think it was the best story to start this book off with. I really think so.
It was.
Any other vengeance stories?
I can't remember. Were there any other ones?
I mean, there were definitely several. There was that one where I thought the structure of it was very interesting. I think it's called The Ones Who Killed Us. And it was about like the tribe person who was kind of ruminating on them wanting to kill the white men that killed them, which I thought was interesting because I don't know if it was coming from like someone who was already like passed and a spirit and they wanted to kill the white men as spirits, or if they were still like, alive and were plotting to kill the white people. With the help from like the spirits. But it was interesting because the format in like the book, it's not split into paragraphs. Like it's just long pieces of like the description of like, oh, these white men don't know what's coming to them and we're gonna, get revenge for, and sure enough, like it kind of builds up to that. I mean, that's probably what you would expect from something like this. Like, revenge against a white man. That's probably gonna be like the most commonly thought of form of revenge. When it comes to something indigenous, I think. I'm not saying it is, but
well, I think a lot of the stories now that you hear of Native Americans, they were savage in nature and stuff. It's like, dude, you're encroaching on our land, you're squatters. You can't, I mean, we're just protecting our land, right? And who are the real savages, right? You know what I mean? So I really think that the whole revenge against the white man thing, I don't want to say it's warranted because I'm not here to condone that, but I'm just saying that somebody comes into your home, what are you going to do about it? Just kind of be like, all right, cool, you can live here with me. It's like, I mean, we're going to protect what's ours, right? So,
which, I mean, we did see that in one story, but
we did. So, okay. So what do you think the anthology is ultimately trying to say about fear, where it comes from, how it's passed down, and what power it holds? I know Laura talked about the fear factor a little bit there and stuff. And what do you think maybe in some ways the fear when they're telling these stories as a child, it's meant to kind of keep you at bay so that you know to respect the tradition and the culture? Or do you think it's more just, good stories, scary stuff? I don't know.
No, I think
Both.
there's definitely something for like teachable there.
Yeah.
Obviously, like even growing up, we have our own stories that our parents would tell us.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, oh, this happens at night, or this happens to bad kids. It's just a way to pay attention to what you're doing and to be cautious. Because like you can't be so trustful in this world either.
Mm-hmm. I was telling a story last night, and I know I'm probably the only one, but I used to hang out with my cousin who's my age. So we were always hanging out together. I was out at her house. I grew up on a ranch. So my tia's house was like a few houses down, but it was acres, right? So I started to run a ways. Anyways, in order to get me out of her house, I realize that now, but she would tell me, you need to leave now. Si no te vas, she said, te va a comer la luna. So literally my aunt would walk me out to the end of her driveway and she would just watch me run home. And I was running home looking at this thing thinking, seriously, it was...
Yeah. The moon does follow you too when you're a kid.
I think that's what it is because it looks like it's just chasing you.
Yeah.
And man, that stuff used to kill me for years. And I grew up and I asked her about it and she swears. So I'm like, look, either I made this completely up, which I doubt I did. I was old enough to remember. I was like 7. Or I said, you just don't remember. She goes, I really don't remember me. And I was just like, okay,
That's
Tia.
so
She's lying. She's probably like, no, I laugh about it.
She was like, damn, why did I say that? So before we kind of wrap this up, I did want to ask you, I asked everybody around the table yesterday, and I think Haas had an interesting one, but what urban legend did you all hear growing up that was really like, La Llorona, Donkey Bridge, whatever. There's a lot of those, but was there any other one growing up that you heard that was like, man, like that was a good one?
There was one that I remember where it was that girl who went out to the bar by herself to go dance.
Dancing with the devil?
Yes. And then she was dancing with a handsome guy and whatever. And then she looks down and sees hooves and she was dancing with the devil. Yeah. That one I remember always terrified me.
Mm-hmm. That's a good story. In the Valley, there's this bar back in the day called Boccaccio 2000. Mm-hmm. And
they're like, that's where it happened.
It's crazy because it burned down for real. So everybody's like, oh, it was that night.
Yeah.
Like, no, it wasn't. Somebody arsoned that thing. So,
I mean, San Antonio is chock full of all these urban legends. Like, again, going back to La Llorona, the Donkey Lady Bridge, the railroad tracks, which is probably the most popular one here. Another one that the Little People Mansion. I don't know if you've ever heard about that one.
I have not. What's that one?
That one?
Briefly.
Probably not 100% accurate, but apparently there was a house where little people lived. Okay. And something happened where I guess the patriarch or whatever went on a murder spree and killed everyone.
Here in San Antonio?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if there's truth to it or not.
Sure.
Probably not. But anyway, and supposedly it stayed haunted until they finally knocked it down or whatever.
Really? Mm-hmm. I wonder, well, I mean, you think about even scary things like downtown, they have the Menger Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
The Cadillac bar that supposedly Theodore Roosevelt and his Rough Riders
Correct. There's a lot of history here, right? It's an old city and stuff. I really appreciate that about San Antonio and stuff. And there's another one, La Mano Pachona. Have you heard that one? I don't remember how that one goes, but I think that one might be more Valley. There's a really good book by my friend. It's called Ghosts of the Rio Grande Valley. It's by David Bowles. And he talks about a lot of these things. And believe it or not, even though they're 4 hours apart, the Valley and San Antonio have very similar. I mean, I think it's the Latin culture. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But some stories do vary and they do change, like the ghost, the hooves one and stuff. But really interesting stuff. Haas told one yesterday. I think we all kind of got a kick out of it because everybody was like, I've never heard that. But he said that the 5-second rule when you drop food on the floor.
Yeah.
He was told that it's not so much about the 5-second rule. He said that when the food drops, the devil licks the food. So you're not supposed to eat it. I was like, I've never heard that before. That was interesting.
He had a fun family.
He did, right? Haas was like, oh my God, I can't eat that. So I'm sure if he thought he licked it, the devil
he
possessed him or something.
Yeah. Why is it spicier than
spicier?
Okay, so overall, did you like the book or not?
I liked it. It wasn't what I expected at all, which taught me a good lesson, obviously.
Sure.
But I really liked it. Each story had something. I think they had something memorable that stuck with me as I was reading it.
Sure.
But I liked it. I don't know, except for that tick one. That TikTok
that one
we talked about yesterday. I was like, oh my God, what kind of ticks is this person seeing? Because I didn't know that their heads is that a real thing?
Yeah, it is.
Their heads really do get in here. Because I've seen ticks and I'm usually just able to
That's
get
why
it and throw it off.
like if you have it on your animal, you pluck them off from the head as best as possible. Because
Yeah.
if you just grab it from the back part, the head stays there.
I did not know that.
Mhm.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Well, now I learned something.
And they'll just fill up again. So,
Really?
yeah, you got to take it out as best as possible. That one was a strange one for me. I was listening to the audio, so when I heard TikTok, I thought it was like the app, right? The
I thought so
app.
too.
But then when I looked at the physical, it's like, no, it's like TikTok.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, oh, okay. So that one was a little strange for me too. So
But I liked it.
Gross.
yeah.
Gross.
I think I was the one last night that I didn't like it as much as everybody else. There were definitely some highlights for me. I think for me, I mentioned to you guys before we started, it was just underwhelming for me. And I don't mean to say anything bad because I'm not some prolific writer, but a lot of these stories, when I was listening to them, I was like, man, this sounds like just some 10th grader writing a story, which not to say people don't have amazing imaginations or can't write well at that age, but it just didn't seem like it was very well put together, well thought out. And then they were giving little bios at the end of every story of the author. And it was just like, so-and-so on his spare time does this. And I was like, okay, it's just kind of, I think that for me was underwhelming. It just didn't have the depth that I was hoping it had, I guess. So I don't know. Being a hater.
Being a hater.
Classic Romeo.
Yeah, sorry guys. It's just, I did rate it a 2-star on Goodreads.
Dang.
I know, it's hardcore.
It's a hardcore.
Sorry.
We're ending that here.
I did like that though. I like how they gave a little description of the authors at the end of the story.
Yeah.
So we get to see like who wrote this, where'd they come from, why they wrote it, whatever.
Yeah.
Although they weren't as meddled or jeweled as we probably wanted them to be.
Sure.
But I thought it was very cool that they all varied in that way.
Yeah.
We talked about this also too. We just talked about this book just wasn't for me, right? It doesn't mean it's not for you or for Ruby, for anybody else. For me, it just wasn't my type of book. I typically lean more toward nonfiction anyway. Just anthologies I've never really done. So it was really hard for me to kind of get into. So yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to remember. Like I was telling I was telling some people last night, I'm like, I'm not going to remember most of these stories by title, but you tell me a plot point or a character and I'll be like, okay, now I know what you're talking about. So it's definitely, it's a lot to keep in consideration, but overall I did enjoy it. I guess a lot of people shared that expectation. I necessarily didn't have it myself, but like people expected it to be more on like the, like demonic creature, evil side, mythological.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's fair. That's absolutely valid.
Sure.
But that wasn't a thing that like really put me off. There were some stories that were more of a miss than a hit.
Yeah.
But most stories I think were great. There were some bangers in here. It was great seeing different writers from like pretty much every aspect of life. Like we had, like you said, teachers, we had award-winning writers. It seemed like everyone had their own little piece to tell. So I would recommend it, especially around this time where it's getting to be more like a recognition of like Latina culture, Indigenous Peoples Day coming up, and then Indigenous Peoples Month in November. This would definitely be like a good time to dive into a book like this.
Just keep sharing stories. Keep telling stories. Keep sharing those urban legends.
I agree. I think that's something to take away from it, just to keep sharing these stories.
Yeah, don't let them die.
Yeah.
Keep it in the family. So, and last question we always end with is, what are you all currently reading?
I just finished reading this book this morning, but I do, what's in my little wait list that I'm on a hold for is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm really excited to read that one.
Nice.
Let me know if it's good.
I will. I heard it was sad.
Was that
so I'm reading several. I'm still like on a big manga streak. So right now I'm catching up on Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle. Can't speak. But it's by Clamp, which is a very well-known like group of all-female authors in Japan, and Clamp's pretty popular. They did like Cardcaptor Sakura, Chobits, Clover, bunch of famous stories. So I'm catching up on that because I never finished it as a kid. And then I'm also reading Scythe, which was recommended to me by another friend of mine because he really liked it. And there's some like scenes that take place in San Antonio, I think. So it's a pretty cool concept. And then there's another one I'm reading right now. Oh, it's a book about OCD called The Healthy Drive. So
nice.
I'm a little all over the place, but I'm on a reading streak right now. So.
Scythe was recommended to me by a buddy too, because it's like a trio, right? It's like a
there's 3 parts, and then they're coming out with the spin-off soon.
Okay. Cool. I'm currently reading Start With Why by Simon Sinek. So that's what I'm reading with our managers so that we Simon Sinek, if you know who he is, like tech guru kind of guy, but also just very inspirational speaker and stuff. Really good book. Just talks about companies and organizations starting with why you do what you do versus what we do. Really cool. Reframing your thought of why you, in our case, why we do libraries, right? But I'm also reading James by Percival Everett, which is the modern Huckleberry Finn, but it's told by the enslaved individual Jim. So it's his perspective. So you don't necessarily have to read Huckleberry Finn. It would help, but you can just go to a quick Wikipedia search, get an idea about it, and then start with James. Very good writing, very good book. So
Nice.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Like, again, I don't think,
I never read Huckleberry Finn.
well, you're not missing much, but
yeah,
You're not missing much.
you really could just like, Google it and you'll get the synopsis. Oh, okay.
yeah.
He wasn't a
Paint
King's
this
guy,
fence
right?
for me.
I mean, Mark. It was 1800s. Mark Twain, just kind of a lot of
1800s.
inappropriate language. So you just have to get used to that. So
Yeah.
but cool. That was it.
Anyway, apologies to any Huckleberry Finn fans out there.
Sorry, Mark Twain's dead. So
We're never going to interview him anyways. We can trash it.
Actually, next week, I'm kidding. But yeah, and then so that's our discussion for Never Whistle at Night. Again, it is available on cloudLibrary, ebook, and audiobook. So if that's something you want to look into, by all means. And if you haven't registered for a library card already, go do that. It is Library Card Registration Month. So by all means, head to our website, visit any one of our branches IRL, sign up for a library card, get access to everything that we're talking about on these episodes. And then for our next episode, let me pull it up again. Give me 1 second.
while you do that, let's have a discussion about Team Jer or Team Conrad.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
You got to watch it, Rosanna.
Just kidding.
no.
Just kidding.
Just read the book.
So our next book for our next Libros and Libations read is going to be Death Valley by Melissa Broder. And this one seems like a doozy. People at Libros were saying they really liked it. They've already read it.
Yeah.
There was like few scenes that like made them cry. So I'm excited to see what like the emotional like aspect and crux of this book is. But a quick little summary, which is available on cloudLibrary, by the way. So
Correct.
Go check it out if you haven't already. In Melissa Broder's astonishingly profound new novel, a woman arrives alone at a Best Western seeking respite from an emptiness that plagues her. She has fled to the California high desert to escape from a cloud of sorrow, for both her father in the ICU and a husband whose illness is worsening. When the motel provides, however, is not peace but a path discovered on a nearby hike.
Yeah. I started it. So far, it's like half an hour into it. So very early on, but it's pretty good.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, I'm excited.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I remember seeing like the cover pop up very much in like searches and like, at like bookshelves. So I'm excited to see because it's one of those like I see the cover, I'm like, oh, that's cute. And then just kind of dismiss it after a while. So definitely excited. But make sure y'all join us at the next Libros and Libations if y'all read this and want to talk about it, which is going to be
October 6th.
October 6th at Burleson Yard Garden at 6 p.m. Come by, talk with us. You liked it, you hated it. We want to hear it.
Nice.
But cool. Any final thoughts or?
Nope. Just keep on reading. Good.
All right. Sounds good. Well, make sure y'all join us on the next episode. And once again, I'm Rosanna.
I'm Ruby.
And I'm Romeo.
And we'll see y'all later. Bye.
Later.